everybody, we are live. And this we're calling Whisker Wisdom.
So welcome to Whisker Wisdom.
Expert tips and advice by cat. Expert tips and advice by cat experts. Or tips and advice by cat experts. That's how it goes. And we've got all cameras going right now. We've got, of course, the famous Feline, frame your feline cam going on right now. So you're going to be seeing our cats hop into frames.
That's Winnie right now.
And this is Brian and Christina. We are the co-founders of Frame Your Feline. If you want to turn your cat into a work of living art, there's nothing better than getting a feline frame ensemble and attaching it to your wall and watch the magic happen. It's beautiful, and you're going to see it happen live today. And we've got our expert, Mikel.
Hey, everyone.
Mikel Maria Delgado. Right? Doctor.
Yeah, don't forget the doctor. I feel like that intro was like incredibly fancy. It was exciting. Like
we like it fancy here.
Yeah, we go all out. You know, go big or
and
go
you've done so much, so it should be fancy. You need all the accolades.
Yeah, like you are. We didn't even get to this, but you're an author as well, a published author.
I am a published author. Yeah, I've done a few things. I've been around the block a few times.
This book writing thing is this is no new rodeo for you, right? So you've been down this road before. But how many books have you done?
Those are crazy cats in the back.
Yeah, so I've not. Well, okay. So writing a dissertation is technically a book. So when I did my PhD, I did have to write a book, but it has not been published outside of the you can go online and download it from Google Scholar or something. But yeah, I co-authored Jackson Galaxy's last book, Total Cat Mojo, which came out in 2017. So that's really my only foray into published, cat behavior book. So when my book comes out next year, that will be my first solo author published book, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, I've done.
Is going to be.
Do you know the title?
I do know the title. It's called "Play with Your Cat" with an exclamation point at the end. So
I like it. It's simple and it's to the point, right?
It is to the point. Just do it. Play with your cat.
Okay. Well, I think we kind of forgot to talk about you and your street cred when it comes to cats because you are a cat behaviorist, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah,
what does that mean?
Yeah, it's a great question because really there's no requirement as to what anyone can call themselves a cat behaviorist, right? So there's no real criteria anybody can hang a shingle. So I think it is important to if you are going to hire someone or work with someone is just find out about their background, how did they get into this? And I've been working with cats for almost 23 years now. So I got my start in an animal shelter, working with cats at the San Francisco SPCA in the cat behavior program there. At some point I decided, even going further back, I'm quite, I've, like I said, been around the block. Many years ago, I dropped out of college to move to California because I wanted to start a rock band, which is why you see the guitars behind me. But yeah, so that was a different dream. And then, I ended up in a shelter one day and realized that my life path was going to change significantly. And at some point working at the shelter, I realized I wanted to go back to school, finish that college degree, and then decided I wanted to get a PhD, which is a doctorate of philosophy where you do research and teach and write a dissertation, which is usually my dissertation had 4 experiments in it that I'd done with squirrels. So my PhD research was with
squirrels. Wait,
yeah.
What? Okay, wait. So Mikel, are you a squirrel behaviorist too?
I do. I have dabbled in squirrels. I try to stay on brand these days now that my dissertation is over. But when you're trying to get a PhD, at the time there really wasn't anybody where I could work with cats and not have to move to another country basically. So just finding a good fit as far as a university and a professor who's going to be your mentor can be very challenging. And the person who ended up being the perfect fit for me and the place where I could get good funding was at UC Berkeley. And my mentor was she was a squirrel expert, and I knew that I wanted to do research with either companion animals or wild animals. I didn't want to work in a lab. I didn't want to work with captive animals. Like that just isn't my jam. I didn't want to do like any kind of, creepy research. So I spent 7 years chasing squirrels around outside on the UC Berkeley campus.
That's nuts.
If only
It was nuts.
if only we had Instagram then, right? You'd be
Yeah.
like, I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there were some wild stories for sure. I had some interesting encounters with squirrels. They're really fun. But after my PhD, I went to UC Davis, that School of Veterinary Medicine, to work with Dr. Tony Buffington, who's a very well-known cat expert and welfare and nutritionist. He'd done a lot of research and studies that have advanced our understanding of stress-related conditions in cats, including feline idiopathic cystitis, which is a cause for a lot of cats to not use their litter box. But long story short, while I was there, I did some research with orphaned kittens and also looking at cat behavior in home environments, different aspects of feeding behavior. So yeah, since then, been doing work, primarily kind of went back to what I was doing before, which is helping people with their cat problems, but just from a kind of different perspective and a lot more, I guess, science behind me. So
Right.
yeah, so I have a PhD in psychology with an emphasis on animal cognition and behavior. And when you do a PhD, you learn all kinds of stuff like statistics and, how to interpret scientific papers, and you do your own, you do your own studies. And yeah, it's an all, and you teach. So I did a lot of teaching of animal behavior classes, and yeah, so I've done a lot. And at the end of the day, really, all of it has improved my scientific thinking, which is really just trying to approach like a cat behavior problem in a home, just like I would approach a scientific problem. It's like, what are the possible hypotheses and explanations for this behavior? How can we test those hypotheses and help make the cats happier and healthier? So
you have a website. It's called felineminds.com.
Yeah.
And people who have a cat behavior problem can come to you through that website and render your services, and you will be the cure-all for that cat, right?
So we never promise a cure. Just like, a doctor or therapist would be remiss to promise that they would make you better, right? It's like, depends on the situation. What I do promise is that I will give people very good service, and I will give them useful advice on working with the problem, helping them have a better relationship with their cat, and hopefully solving the behavior problem as well. Sometimes that involves working with their veterinarian. Sometimes it involves environmental modifications like adding vertical space. Sometimes it involves training or other behavior modification. And a lot of times it involves changing the owner's behavior, because a lot of times people are maybe not doing things wrong, but they're not doing everything they could do, or maybe they're reinforcing bad behaviors with attention. Maybe they're not playing with their cat enough. So yeah, it's a multi-pronged approach. And I usually spend at least an hour with my client just going over their history and giving them specific advice. And I offer follow-up support. So it really is like forming a relationship, temporarily with people, because my goal is to help them have a better experience with their cat and help them find solutions to their problems with their cat. But I mean, sometimes,
or is this like over Zoom, or is this in person, or both? Or
yeah, I'm only doing virtual consults right now. When the pandemic started, we switched to virtual, and it's been working really well. And it also expands my service area, because now you don't have to live in Sacramento for me to give you a home visit. So yeah, I mean, I was doing virtual visits before the pandemic as well, just because, yeah, I can't drive all over the country to help people.
Do you find that the majority of cat behavior issues is a human problem?
Well, what I would say is that a lot of behavior issues are a normal, like the cat's behaving in a way that is a normal response to an abnormal environment. So a lot of it is, I mean, I can't tell you how many people pay me to tell them to scoop their litter box twice a day.
Oh my God.
It's like, for a lot of it really does come down to things like providing a good environment for your cat, providing them with vertical space, providing them with a clean litter box, providing them with mental stimulation and things to keep them busy. So, sometimes it is just motivating the human to change their behavior, and also just recognizing that like they also have maybe some limitations, like they don't have an endless supply of money, they don't have an endless supply of time, they may be frustrated. So we also try to come up with solutions that are going to make a difference quickly. And then like, so what's the most important thing we can focus on today? And then what else should you be doing down the road? Once we get through this little like hurdle, let's now take on this other problem. Because usually, even though when we were chatting on Instagram earlier, you know, you asked what are the most common issues, and I mentioned it's cats not getting along and litter box avoidance, but rarely is there just one issue. Like during the process of our conversation, maybe it turns out that the cat also gets on the kitchen counters, or the cat's scratching the furniture, or the cat's keeping them up at, 3 a.m. screaming for food. So there's often other problems. They're just not at the forefront of the person's mind because the cat's peeing on their bed, and that's the one problem they would like solved right now. But, so sometimes it's okay. Let's focus on that problem. But
I'm thinking here, if a cat pees in our bed, it hasn't happened yet, but if it does happen, I will turn into a dog person.
So, well, you'd be surprised because again, we talked about this earlier, like the human animal bond is strong, but, also recognizing that a lot of people who reach out for help are extremely, they're frightened. They're afraid that their only solution is to get rid of their cat, or even worse, put their cat to sleep. They're afraid that they're not going to be able to have friends come over because their house smells like pee. They're afraid that they can't date anybody because who wants to, have sex with someone in a cat peed bed? So like, there can be, I've had clients, the other thing is like recognizing that I'm not, for example, I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not a marriage therapist. I'm not, I'm not a therapist. So, sometimes I do have to refer clients, definitely to their veterinarian, but sometimes also to, dealing with their interpersonal issues outside of the cat behavior consulting space, because they need different types of help that, I can't tell you how many couples, they move in together. It's supposed to be like the highlight of your relationship, right? And they each have a cat before they move in together.
Oh.
Cats hate each other, and now they're sleeping in separate beds because nobody wants the cats to sleep alone.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Yeah, so it can get kind of gnarly, and my heart goes out to those people because, like, unless you have a partner who snores or something, like you probably don't want to be sleeping in separate beds.
Don't talk about that. Don't talk about that. Michael.
It's become an issue. But it's funny. It's funny. You were like, you wouldn't want a cat to pee in your bed, obviously, but no. I think you forgot. Years ago, we rescued a cat named Corky from our celebutard neighbor who lived next door. Mm-hmm. And he was a ginger cat. He had diabetes because the guy didn't feed him the right food, and it was bad. And we were experimenting with cat costumes, and I had this bag of cat costumes. I don't know what to do with them because our cats won't wear them, and they shouldn't wear them. But this was part of a really cute leprechaun costume.
Right.
And we put this on him with these little leprechaun like cufflinks. Yeah. And we went out of town for the weekend. Do you remember, for Lori's wedding?
Yeah. And
we came back, and what was on our bed?
Oh, yeah.
Big, huge poop. And I was like, it's because of the costume, Brian.
I blocked.
Getting back at you.
I blocked that.
It was bad.
I blocked that memory out. Thank you for bringing it.
He never did it again. And every time we traveled out of town, I would put plastic dry cleaner bags under the comforter. So if he jumped on the bed, it would crinkle, and he would know that was not a good place to hang out while we were gone. Because I was thinking it could be the end of our relationship if a cat was peeing in our bed.
Yeah, that would be.
Or doing that again in our bed.
Yeah. So, that just highlights the seriousness of these types of behaviors that are, like I mentioned, some of the most common reasons we're called for help. Like, there's a lot of people out there that need that kind of help. And, probably the cause of your cat's pooping was from what we would call trigger stacking, where multiple small stressors lead to what we call a sickness behavior, where the cat is behaving out of the norm, but there's not it's a behavior that is not caused by a specific physical issue, but it's caused by stress. So the combo of the costume plus going out of town, plus who knows what else was going on, right? Like, just like if you woke up late and now you're late for work, and then your car's out of gas, and someone cuts you off in traffic, you forgot your lunch at home. Now if something else, you get to work and someone says like, oh, I didn't like your report, you're like, don't talk to me, or you start screaming, right? Like you just lost it. And so that can happen with our companion animals too, where multiple small stressors can kind of tip them over the edge, and then we'll see behaviors that might be out of the norm for them. And luckily for you, it's just a one-time incident, because apparently Brian's gonna like move out if we.
Well, now I know what to say. I've been trigger stacked.
Exactly. Yes, I use it a lot.
I feel that way as a human. Many times as a mom, homeschool mom.
Have you? Hey, Michael. Have you ever been stumped by a cat?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Like where you sit here and you're like, holy, I have no idea. I gotta act like I know what I'm doing.
Well, I, when I was a grad student, I had to teach undergrads, and I learned really quickly that you do not want to fake your way through a question, because they will like look on Google right away and like, reveal that you're a fraud. So no, I mean, I think, I've probably read every scientific book about cats, and I've read most scientific studies about cats, and I've been, working with cats for almost 23 years, but I do not pretend that I know everything about cats or that I understand why they do every single thing. And often what people they want to ask me like a really weird question, like, why does my cat do this very specific behavior? And they're like, the only cat that does this, so why would they do it? And there's no research to fall back on. So we kind of have a couple of options when we have a weird question and there's no known answer. Like one is we can use what we know about cat behavior, or maybe their closest wild relatives, to make some inferences, right? Like maybe this behavior would make sense in a certain context and maybe doesn't make sense in this context. Cats have retained a lot of the instincts that their closest ancestors, the African wildcat, had. So they're very similar in behavior to those cats, even though we've domesticated them and they're much more cuddly and sweet than those cats are. But sometimes there are behaviors that maybe made sense during the process of evolution, but don't make sense now. Like maybe scratching around their food, right? That's a question a lot of people like, why is my cat scratching around my food? Does he think it's poop? And it's like, probably the best explanation is that your cat has an instinct to cover their tracks and reduce the threat of predators or prey animals realizing that they're around. So yeah, we don't know, and we can't ask your cat why they do certain things, but we can make some educated guesses, right? So in that case, I'm not like just making something up. I'm trying to kind of come up with an explanation that makes sense based on what we know about cats. Now, there are other behaviors, like I've seen like behaviors. I don't know if you've seen the cats who make the praying gesture online. They sit up on their back legs and do this.
Touchdown, like Goal Kitty does something like that.
Yeah. So there are some behaviors that if they're not trained, if they're not trained to do these behaviors, then maybe they're being reinforced with other things like attention. So yeah, that's a behavior. I don't know why cats do it, except usually it's either it feels good, they get a response from it that they like, or it's, a behavior that was kind of retained. That's a wild behavior. That one, no. But I've definitely seen enough videos of cats doing that behavior that it's like in their repertoire for some reason, and it's easily reinforced. So some cats will continue to do it, and maybe it's the attention from the owner that they get that, or maybe it just feels good. I don't know. But there are definitely things that, I don't know. I don't fake it. I'm happy to say I don't know everything about cats. And the minute I've ever thought like, oh, I know a lot about cats, then the next cat I encounter does something really weird. And then I'm like, I know nothing about cats. I've dedicated my life to cats and I still know nothing.
Before we get talking about vertical space and all that fun stuff,
I'm gonna get Poppy.
I have a question to ask you about one of our cats. Okay. Don't start the meter. Okay.
I'll give you this one for free.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We have a cat who loves to play fetch. We've had many cats. This one cat, Christina's hair ties.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like we'll run, grab it, bring it to us, and then want us to throw it. We throw it like a dog, fetches the hair tie, brings it back, drops it right at our feet, and wants to continue the process. Why this one cat? Why this one awesome trait? I think it's cool. I like it because it's like having a dog,
Agreed.
Is there a reason for this? Is this a...
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I'll just say that my 3 cats, so I have 3 sisters, so they're related. They share some traits. One of them is that they all fetch to a different extent. I've never had a cat who fetched before. So it's been very exciting to me to have cats who fetch. And they have, usually it's a little fuzzy furry puff that they like to fetch, and or the little fuzzy mice. And one of my cats is like the best at fetching and the other 2 only do it occasionally. But yeah, so I've also known people that have trained cats to fetch. So it is, in theory, a trainable behavior, but you have to put a lot of time and effort into training that behavior because if the cat doesn't offer it naturally, then it's just going to be harder to get them to do it. So why do cats do this? Well, they do. So it's probably related to predation behavior. So because play and predation are on a spectrum, and a lot of the behaviors we see around toys or small objects like a hair tie. One note, hair ties can be dangerous if they eat them and swallow them. So just keep an eye on those hair ties. But so when they hunt, they often carry the food to somewhere where they feel safer. So they may not eat where they kill an animal, they'll carry it away. So probably the fetching is related to the predatory cycle of behavior, and they're just directing it toward a toy, and you are the safe place that they bring it back to. And then it's reinforced because you toss it again and now it's fun. So there's, so that is probably why it continues, is that it leads to engagement from you, and they get to practice the behavior over and over again. And you're tossing it, they get to chase it, which again, predatory instincts. And now they've learned that if they bring it back to you, you'll toss it again and again. So, so it's fun for both of you, but probably it stems from a predatory behavior.
And this is the one.
That's
She's
the one.
our forever kitten from the Lang Foundation, little Holly.
Nice.
And
yeah.
She will try to do it at night.
Will she howl with the toy in her mouth?
What's that?
Does she do the howling with the toy in her mouth? Like,
her brother does that.
Oh, okay.
The bird on the wand toy.
Oh, yeah.
Curries it in his mouth, and he like. They both have something like orally that they really like, but I know not to. When she's like 3 a.m, jumping in the bed with the hair tie, I just hide the hair tie because I know if I throw it, it's going to be an hour worth of that. So we try to tire them out before bedtime.
It is an oral thing because those 2 cats, and then our one-eyed cat Tootie smokes cigarettes in the garage. So what am I gonna do? Hey, you got to cut this cold turkey, and he's like, I'm a cat, I'm not a turkey. I don't know.
No, he's a jackrabbitter. He likes to jackrabbit his toys.
Jackrabbit.
Oh, he does the bunny kicking. Yes, I love that. Yeah, very nice.
It's funny how they all gravitate towards certain toys.
Yeah.
Winnie likes to carry a little toy, like a little stuffed soft thing through our house, like kind of crying. Because you go to her and she puts it down and she wants you to throw it and play with it.
Yeah. So, I was talking to Brian, like one of my cats, her favorite thing to fetch is a furry puff. And often at night, she will sometimes carry it into the bedroom and she's going, oh, it's like this very like intense howl sound. It's loud too.
So what's that?
So this is a great example because this is another behavior that we don't have a good explanation for. So there's so we know that moms will bring prey to kittens, right? And that helps them learn to be a better hunter. And she will sometimes announce to the kittens, like, I'm here, with some kind of vocalization. And kittens, when they're playing, will sometimes also make vocalizations while they're playing. And we think that there's some possible interest in like attending to other kittens, like watching your siblings hunt may also help you. Cats are social learners. Now, so, is it they're announcing these behaviors? Well, it doesn't make sense if you think about the fact that male cats do it too. So then that's not a great explanation for the behavior that they're announcing. Like, this is like a retained, like, mom does this to her kittens, but male cats don't take care of their kittens. They have nothing to do with their kittens. So it's not a great explanation that this is like mom announcing to her kittens that she's brought them something, because why do male cats do it then? So it is a bit of a mystery. My guess is like other behaviors, it gets reinforced with human attention. I know I'm guilty. Like when my cat carries the toy around and howls in the middle of the night, I often like say her name and try to get her to come to bed. And so this is how the human behavior impacts our cat's behavior, right? Like things like attention, talking to our cats. They learn very quickly, as you know, when they've got our attention, they're like, oh yeah, like, you know, if they're like trying to knock something off a shelf and they're just like, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to do something? Right. And they know when we're looking at them and paying attention to them. And for some cats, that's very rewarding. And so that's enough to motivate them to continue a behavior in the future.
That's fun. It's funny you brought that up because there's a good joke. The joke goes like this, Michael. How do you know the earth isn't flat?
How do you know?
Because cats would have knocked everything off by now.
Oh, yes. That's a good joke. Yes.
Do they bat things off the table just to hear the sound of something falling and hitting the ground?
So again, my best explanation would be that it's pleasurable or fun, and also that it's tied to a natural behavior. So when cats are hunting, there's a lot of batting of the prey. Often that's a way that they can kind of test how strong is this mouse? Are they going to try to bite me? How are they almost dead? So there's a lot of paw activity, and their paws are incredibly sensitive. So they have nerve endings and, you know, whiskers, and their claws are sensitive to touch. So they can use all of that sensory information to make inferences about what's happening with the mouse on the other end. So it is like helping them with the hunt, because when a cat has a mouse in their mouth, they can't see the mouse. Their close-up vision is actually pretty terrible. So they're relying on their whiskers and their paws and their claws and their teeth to give them information about what's happening on the prey end of things. So it is really just, a lot of it is probably information gathering, and then again, reinforced by attention. And also it's probably just fun, right? Like they're kind of just knocking stuff around and seeing what happens. They're natural physicists. They're testing gravity.
Someone dumped a cat in our neighborhood 2 summers ago, and we trapped him, we neutered him, we let him recoup in our laundry room. He was in our indoor catio in the kitchen, and we felt like it was time, you know, he was getting along with everybody, but he unfortunately escaped that night through the top of a screen in our bathroom. And was out at the front door in the morning waiting for breakfast. We've tried to sense trap him. He has decided he wants to live on our property, which is fine. He has a cat bed. He has Brian as his butler. But we have seen him in our yard doing that, you know, like with a lizard or a bird. And it's just his instinct. And our son is a little fascinated. Sometimes there are some tears, but we're like, yes, we see that. It's kind of like when Jolly has the wand with the feather. Like they're doing, I get it, how you're describing this. Because the instinct is very strong. And even though when we keep our cats indoors, they don't have a lot of opportunities to hunt. But I don't know if you've ever had like a moth or a fly come into your house. It's like the cats know. It's very exciting. So, you know, their instincts are still very much present, even though, you know, we think of them as little house panthers. It's like the panther part is still true too, right? They're still little wildcats that want to kill. In the beginning, you're like, when you've seen this, you're like, don't eat it. And they're like,
yeah.
And I'm like, it's just protein. It's their reward. We had a cat in LA who, before we fully rescued her, she was an indoor outdoor cat. She brought us like this disgusting, like black thing roach from the trash barrels. And we're like, thank you, Maggie, so much. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, when they bring it inside, it is probably them carrying their kill to somewhere they feel safer, not necessarily because they want to feed you or anything. So it's not necessarily like they're taking care of you, but it's more like they feel more secure at home. So they're going to bring the food back. It's like takeout. Right. So I'm just more comfy at home, like on the couch.
You know, I have to say this. I've always thought like the most fascinating person I would want to talk to is the Long Island medium, right? I have tons of questions. I've got lots of questions. I got lots of questions. And now I'm thinking Michael is at the top of the list. I could keep you on here for hours. We're going to extend this show for 4 hours more. I got questions about cats. But we should move on. We got to. Wait. I do have one more question because you're a musician. You are a musician. You play the bass, right?
I do play the bass.
Okay. Question. I understand that music and plants. If you play classical music for plants, the plants will thrive and grow better than if you did heavy metal shredding, right?
Yes.
What about cats? Is there a musical preference for cats? Do they like your bass playing?
No, they do not.
Or the drums. They see drums in the back too.
Yeah, the drums are electronic, so luckily those are not too disturbing. But really interesting, the parallels between plants and cats, because cats also have better physiological responses to classical music compared to like hard rock or heavy metal. So there was a study where they had cats who were getting spayed and neutered, and they played music and they were recording things like their respiration rate and their heart rate. And they found that when they listened to classical music, they were more relaxed than with the heavy metal music or just the noise in the clinic, right? So, you know, in a vet clinic, people are talking when they're doing surgery, and, you know, there's clanking of stuff. So the cats did do better with classical music. I think there was another study, I can't remember if it was cats or dogs, that also suggested like reggae music was better received. So
oh no.
So
now we're talking about catnip and reggae music, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't have to get into the meow-wana or anything, but
yeah,
we are in California. Stuff's legal here, you know. It's all good. But yeah, so I think, you know, cats do have much more sensitive hearing than we do. Of course, they didn't evolve with music like we play now. And some cats, I think, do find it hard to like sleep if the music is abrasive. I always think of this because when I worked in the shelter, a lot of people, when they were cleaning the cats' kennels, would like be blasting loud music to make it more fun for them, right? You're sweeping, you're cleaning, you're, you know, mopping. It's not like really fun. So music makes it go better. But, you know, wear headphones if you're doing that kind of thing. If you like really loud music, just consider how your cats might feel, knowing that they do tend to prefer classical music. Unfortunately, not my favorite kind of music. So I prefer the louder stuff.
Yeah. not your jam.
Yeah, classical is not my jam. But there's also someone developed some music for cats, which is basically just classical music with different frequencies that are similar to cat sounds like purring. And there's been some research around some of that music and its use in veterinary clinics and maybe a shelter, but it does seem like cats enjoy it. So you can Google music for cats. I think that's actually what it's called, and see if your cat seems to respond well to it.
Yeah, we have something in the works with that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yes, we have.
Okay, so let's.
Oh, and I'll pour you some. We're having the Diabolo again.
Still nursing that thing.
Tangerine pomegranate. It's good. We like it. We're on the fourth can.
We like the Diabolo, and the guy who runs Diabolo is a big art collector, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, we're trying to get in touch with
him. So maybe you can,
you know, since we're in the art world now.
So I did want to touch on shelter cats getting adopted, and like I know when we look at cats when it's time, it's like internet dating, and we look at the pictures, and sometimes those pictures are really terrible. And that's kind of a thing with us, is we would love to have our frames at every shelter, at every rescue, to help elevate the pictures. Why do shelter cats have just such terrible pictures a lot of the time?
Well, I love the idea of your frames being in shelters, because it is a huge factor. How do people find pets? They go to Pet Finder and they swipe, right? That's what, when I was looking to adopt my 3, I was on Pet Finder every day. I think some of it is just shelters don't have the time and budget to take good photos and edit those photos so they're cropped nicely. They don't even, maybe a lot of times cats get their picture taken when they're being processed, so they're like literally just roughing them and pulling them out of a box, which is not like the cat's finest moment, right? Like that's kind of like, you know, like every mugshot, people look scary, like there's something about that process.
No, I think you're right. You know,
so I think, you know, the cats are getting their picture taken in a room with bad lighting at their worst moment, like they're very stressed. So it does, and then the other thing is, like, a lot of shelters either only have cages, and those don't handle flash very well because it's going to bounce off all of the stainless steel, so the lighting's going to be funky. Or the rooms don't have good lighting. So, you know, every shelter has different limitations as far as like what kind of beautiful space they have as a background. So there's one problem. So lighting's a problem, background's a problem, stress is a problem, and then just the time and maybe a good camera. You know, I know nowadays, I mean, if you have a nice phone, you can take very high quality photos, but You need someone with the time to take those photos and then maybe, like I said, do some editing on those photos after the fact. And so you really rely a lot on volunteers to do that kind of work. So there's lots of room for improvement in photos. If you go on, some shelters' websites, they're not doing the kitties any favors. Like the photos upside down and like the cat looks scary or grumpy, and
you're putting the kibosh. You're putting the kibosh on a dating site I'm creating called dldating.com. It's driverlicensedating.com, where only your driver's license picture can be used for your profile.
I just got my driver's license renewed, and I have not gotten the photo yet, and I'm kind of terrified. So I think it's going to arrive any day now.
About a horrible picture, right? Your driver's license is just miserable.
Yeah.
Horrible lighting, and you don't want to be there, and it's just So let's talk about vertical space.
Thank you.
So cats. I made this. I thought. Like literally, my brain thought that there were two kinds of cats. Cats who are bush dwellers or cats who are tree dwellers. I thought like it's either one or the other. Either they like to be low or they like to be high. And then you rocked my world in the Instagram live we just did, where you said, Brian, silly boy, you said they could be both. And I fainted. And I came back, and so explain the behavior styles and how important vertical space is for cats.
Yeah, I think what the the bush dweller and tree dweller, like those are terms that Jackson Galaxy, my dear friend, coined as a way. People like having clear ways to identify traits in their cat, right? They're a scaredy cat, or they're, bush dweller. Like we kind of then they get lumped into that category. Maybe they're stuck there, and your bush dweller is just waiting for the opportunity to blossom. And now they want to be up high. So I would never say, oh, your cat's a bush dweller, you shouldn't get vertical space for them.
Right.
No, it's like, how can we make the vertical space more appealing? How can we make them feel more safe in this home? Do they need maybe the levels between the steps of the vertical space need to be closer together so they don't have to hop as far? Or maybe it needs to be in a location where they can look out a window, or where they feel in a room that they feel safe, right? So it really is about kind of knowing what your cat is like, but also understanding what's their potential for growth and what they might enjoy that you haven't tried yet. So I think some experimenting is always in order. And I definitely think the nice thing about what you've got set up on the frame cam is you could add more in betweens, right? You could add more gradations. You could add a ramp even. So you could make changes to that space and additions as suit your current family of cats. Because the other thing is you may have, unfortunately your cats do not live forever. So if you're lucky, you will have a few sets of cats throughout your life, or maybe cats that overlap and you've got new ones coming in as sadly others depart. And so you want to make sure you're meeting the needs of each cat. And again, not assuming that because you've seen them sleep on a bed on the floor that they would not enjoy being 8 feet off the ground looking down at you. So yeah, I think we have to be careful about being too harsh in our categorization and lumping and splitting.
I'm harsh.
You just are, you're trying to cognitively make sense of the world in a very quick and dirty way. And,
I think I did hear that from Jackson Galaxy.
Okay.
So if you still talk to Jackson
all the time.
I blame him for my harshness.
Well, I will just say Jackson's a good friend of mine. I'm not going to, talk any smack about him, but, but talking about why, so I was thinking we didn't really talk about some of the whys of vertical space in the Instagram live, but, they're great for vertical space is great for multi-cat households because it does give them more territory to split up. It means they can use a space without having to share. So we like to have lots of options. You wouldn't have just one frame for 4 cats, right? You would hopefully have multiple frames and other vertical options for your multiple cats. They can also be really helpful if you have dogs or children who are young, right? So that vertical space allows your cat to coexist peacefully with grabby hands or a barky pooch who is irritating when they're on the same level, but maybe now that the cat can be safely out of reach. they can tolerate the barky pooch or the maybe a teetering toddler that is grabbing and being unpredictable and not acting like an adult human. So those are really good reasons to invest in different kinds of vertical space. And then, we've got the like exercise it provides, the warmth and safety of a high up place. Heat rises, cats like warmth. So
because
interesting.
Let's see, where am I pointing? The one right here.
Yes.
Above Brian's head, that is Winnie's favorite place from like October to May, because we have a fireplace right there.
Oh yeah, heating duct.
And she just with a wood burning fireplace. She sits in the frame. It's her frame. She just perches there and she just stares at the fireplace. She's like sleeps there, all night long. Because I get up in the middle of the night while we were testing this to see like our one-eyed cat loves to be in the one in the kitchen because he's like waiting for the sun to come out. He's waiting for the activity on our patio. So. I love what you're saying, but yeah, it's funny, the heat thing. I never thought of that. The heat rising, so obvious, but I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, interesting. So then, another thing that we discussed earlier was how our feline frame ensemble feels. It's like a box in a way, where there's a floor and a ceiling that are shelves that attach to the wall, and then the frame attaches to the shelves, right? And so that was one of the things when we came up with the concept and the idea of Frame Your Feline, and we didn't know how our cats would take to it. It was purely like, we don't know. We think it's a cool idea. Let's see if it works. And the cats took to it immediately. There was no training needed. They just wanted to get up and then they would sit in it. But the frame around the shelves there, that really kind of creates this box feel for them. And they love being in the box.
Yes.
Even though it's open on all sides, they do feel like they're protected,
And, I will say one thing I really like about your product is that it is open on both of those sides because it allows for an escape route and prevents a cat from getting trapped in there. And when you have a multi-cat household, that can be really important. So the flexibility of that design is really definitely what I would recommend. So good call there.
Thank you.
So it not only allows them to go back and forth between them, but it means that nobody's going to get cornered and trapped, which can be a problem when you have multiple cats that don't get along that well. So it's great. Yeah,
we actually learned that the hard way. Okay. When we first installed our first one, which was on that wall, we had
in our kitchen.
I'm saying right down this wall here.
On the opposite.
So we had like the frame and then two shelves that just led up to it.
Okay, gotcha.
But all the other cats wanted to get into it too, and it created a traffic jam.
Yep.
And so
we moved like a TV console, and that's when we were like, okay, so you can use the shelves. Or like how we demonstrate in our kitchen, we have a credenza under our frame.
Yeah, and they just jump onto the credenza, then into the frame.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Like, people don't necessarily have to install like 1,000 shelves to make this work. Right. You can utilize things that already exist in your home, but certainly having a few shelves with exits and entries will make it easier. And as mentioned, if you have a senior cat, you might want those shelves to be a little closer together. Yeah, so the cats don't have to jump as far. But I think I think it's great. And you learned.
Cat cam. There's
Poppy.
Poppy is in the.
She's the one who covers her food.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So.
And the only thing I have observed is our tuxedo cat is usually lurking close behind.
Okay.
Ready to eat what she has left behind. So that's the only thing. That's my very limited scientific research is someone's gonna eat my food. Like she'll literally find like a sock on the floor and like put it on top. You haven't seen that?
Yeah, no, I've seen that.
You have?
I've seen that.
A bathroom rug or something like. What?
Oh yeah, she's dragging it over the food. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't touch it.
Yeah. So back to the traffic jam thing. That's when we were like, okay, we need to figure out different configurations. Yeah. So on our website at frameyourfeline.com, we have different configuration styles. Depending on how many cats you have and.
Great.
And so that's kind of a cool thing
one of our users, Mad Cattery, they're in Virginia.
Yes.
They have a beautiful home that's an older home. And at the end of their stairway, they put like one shelf and the frame, but then they have this very small wall. I think it maybe is a closet, and they painted the wall in accent color orange. And then they put another shelf there. So it's like, even if you don't have to have a big wall like we do, like this is how we planned it, how we can showcase it. We don't have it decorated so people can like imagine what it would look like in their home. But I love seeing when people have little nooks or in their apartments, how they've been able to just go, oh, my cat's like the shelf at this height and this height. And it's only 2 screws that you're putting into studs. So it's not like, you know, if you oh, maybe they need, like you're saying, for an older cat, you know, a lower shelf, it's very easy to take them in and take them out, put them in somewhere else.
That's awesome.
So,
well, there you go.
Cool.
That was that called a plug? Is that a plug? Did we just plug our
talking about configuration.
Okay. This is Whisker Wisdom. We're talking to an expert here. We don't want to waste Dr. Michael's time.
No, it's not a waste at all. I'm very, like I said, I love your product. I was really excited when I saw you became a Mission Meow partner. So, you know, thank you for supporting us and helping us support other organizations. And we love supporting our partners too. So for me, this is like a really fun opportunity to get to know you too and your business a little more as well. So
thank you. Well, we appreciate you for coming on with us on this first little episode of Whisker Wisdom. I
love to be the first.
You're the first. You're the first expert. You know, we've talked to a lot of goofballs, but we haven't talked to an expert. So that's a good thing.
I think of myself as somewhere in between those two things, or maybe a little bit of both. Right? I'm not just a bush dweller or a tree dweller. I'm a goofball and an expert.
Well, I do have one last question for you.
Okay.
But it's on your music.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Are you in a band or anything?
So I used to be in bands. I had to stop when I went back to school because it was just too difficult to manage, like staying up until 2 a.m. and studying. And so I stopped playing music. Like I still pick up the guitar every now and then, or try to, you know, I'm not very good at the drums, but I like to play. So I do still dabble, but as far as like actively playing out and writing music and stuff, no, that's been done for a while. But it was a great period of my life. Like there was about 13, 15 years that I was playing in bands and playing shows, and drove across the country a few times and had a lot of fun back in the day when I was, you know, young and could stay up all night.
You're young.
Yeah. I heard your favorite band is Stray Cats. Is that true?
That is not true. But it's a good joke. It's a good joke. I like it.
There you go. All right. Well, we want to thank all of you who have watched. Make sure that you hit that like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah.
Okay. And please sub. We need more subscribers on YouTube and other places. Follow us. Stalk us, please. And also, you can find Dr. Mikel Maria Delgado on her social platforms. You're on all of them, right?
I don't have a YouTube channel, I don't think, but I'm on the gram, you know, I'm on Twitter a lot. I hate Facebook, but you know, I'm most active on Instagram, which is just my first and last name with a dot in between. So Mikel.Delgado.
We'll put everything in the comments. In the description.
We will.
All right,
and
thank you.
Make sure you follow, check out the Doctor's Good site, the Good Doctor's Good site at felineminds.com. If you have a cat with a cat behavior problem, stop your searching for somebody to help you, because we have found that person for you. Make sure you reach out to Dr. Mikel Maria Delgado on her website, felineminds.com. Okay. And we will be having you back next year.
Yay.
Because we need to find out how that book is coming along and if it's ready for people to pre-order, because we need to get that book. Because I like to play with cats.
That makes me so happy to hear.
Oh, we do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I figure once that book is done, you and I could co-author Fetching with Cats. And
you never know what will happen. I'm very open to collaboration.
I'll start writing.
Okay, get to it.
All right. Well, listen, we thank you so much for coming. And we want to say goodbye to everybody as well. Make sure you check out frameyourfeline.com, frameyourfeline.com. If you want to turn your cat into a work of living art, this is how you do it. All right. And anything else you would like to add?
We're great.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, she didn't have to leave. She left.